Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I didn't think I would make another video like this, but I, it was inevitable and I couldn't help myself. Um, Yesterday I was talking to my daughter. She's taking a philosophy class, and she told me that she was learning about uh, in her philosophy class about arguments for the existence of God, which she seemed to think were very compelling and made very good points. And so we discussed them back and forth. And I made the last video on Thomas Aquinas's 5 arguments for the existence of God. And the first 4, I think, are somewhat related to each other. And it's essentially this, that um, everything that's in motion was put in motion by something else. Everything has a cause. So there's a line going back, contingency. Everything goes backwards on something, relying on something else, and so on. And so it goes all the way back in time to an original mover, original contingency, and original cause. And that is what we would refer to as God. And, I encouraged her to read up on the counter arguments. And if you're going to make that argument, you should probably know that there are people that don't believe that or that have an argument against it. And I went down that rabbit hole again and I looked up the arguments against it. I've known them, but I wanted it'd be more fresh in my mind. So I looked up a couple of atheists, and they all had very similar arguments for it, which I knew. And essentially, um, the arguments are not that there was an original mover, causer, contingent. The argument that they come to when they get to that point is that, and this is for the majority, there are other arguments, but when they get to that point, their argument is, how do you know that that God is the personal God that you have? And I don't. And I'm making assumptions and other arguments for God and morality from a different place. But the existence of God, and I was looking up one of them, Alex O'Connor. He's a very famous atheist. Um, and they run across the same argument, and they don't seem to want to respond to it. Maybe somebody will respond to it. But it appears that for the most part, and of course, I'm going to say this again, and I know that I'm going to get atheists that say I don't understand atheism. This is the definition of atheism. So I'm going to look it up and say it directly from the dictionary. Okay, atheism. And what does it mean? This is, I just Googled it. This was AI overview. Atheism is the lack of belief in the existence of God or deities, often characterized by rejection of religious claims and a focus on reason and evidence. And there's more detail below it, but that's important. Atheism is the lack of belief in the existence of gods or deities. Okay, everyone that before told me that's the definition, that's the one we go by. And then I had countless other atheists that said that, and they were arguing with me on top of it, they were arguing that atheism means to them that essentially that they do not believe in God or that God does not exist. And I would point out to them, this is your definition, okay? And I know anybody that can look up, you can look up atheism, and there are different definitions of atheism. And there are, let me see if I can find a couple of those. The terms, I want to make sure I get the terms right. Let's see, let's just use the little microphone here. Different types of atheism, okay? Atheism encompasses various viewpoints, including negative atheism, simply lacking belief; positive atheism, asserting no deities exist; agnostic atheism, not knowing if deities exist but lacking belief; and new atheism, active opposition to religion. And the new atheist is interesting because those would be like the guys like they call the 4 horsemen of modern atheism. But those are the definition of atheism. So all of the atheists out there that tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, I just read it directly from the internet. Some of it is one of them is the argument that you guys use, but there are others that you're not the only atheist on the planet. Other atheists have different views. In fact, I think I quoted one on one of my previous videos about an atheist who used one of the other ones, and he's a prominent one. I can't remember his name, but he's a prominent one. So anyway, when I looked up Alex O'Connor and he gave a rebuttal, it goes back to that. He gets to the point where, and he makes arguments about physics and how we can test things in this universe, but and he argues that the Big Bang existed, gives no credit to Georges-Henri Lemaitre, a Jewish Jesuit priest who came up with the Big Bang theory when all the atheists were rejecting it. They all relied on the steady state theory that said that things went on to infinity into infinity in both directions. But he then argues that you reach that point where everything, when the Big Bang happened, and here is the disconnect. Time did not exist in the reality from the Big Bang going backwards. I'll say it in the best way I can. I can't say before the Big Bang because there's time involved in that, right? But at the point of the Big Bang, when the Big Bang happened, that's when time came into existence. And then Alex O'Connor argues that you don't know. There could have been multiple universes. The Big Bang could have been the dying of another universe and the start of the new one, which is simply a leap of faith if you believe that. You have no idea. What we do know is that time came into existence at the point of the Big Bang, and the period, or however you want to describe it, pre-Big Bang, there was no time. And there was no universe the way we have it now. Everything, all the elements came into existence, the weight of hydrogen, all of that happened, and mass, everything came. We have no idea what existed before the Big Bang or the period from the Big Bang backwards. We have no idea. But we can assume, we can make an argument that that existence outside of time and matter, something there started the Big Bang. His argument that it could have been the belief of the beginning of another universe goes on backwards, that there are parallel multiple universes, all that does is give you more time. But at some point, the buck has to stop with an unmoved mover. And the unmoved mover would have been outside of our universe, outside of time and space. That's the logical, reasonable, and when he says at the end of his video that he reaches this conclusion, mocking religious people, mocking people, atheists, that that existence gave us this personal God that, that gave us our morality and all this other things. And he says that the burden of proof is on us, on theists. It is on us theists until the atheist makes the proclamation that God does not exist. And I know among the ones of you that say that it's not a belief in that God does exist, it's a lack of belief. Well, maybe you guys, I mean, I think it's a clever way of getting out of the responsibility. Because if you were to ask any of the atheists, if they're careful, they would say, oh, it's not that I don't believe in God, I just have lack of belief. You're dancing around something so you appear smart and so that you appear like you've thought this through. But the challenge is now on you. Positive atheist, which I believe that's one of them, he says that God does not exist. Once you've made that declaration, then the burden of proof is on you. Whereas to counter the other arguments, there is no proof that God exists. All we have are arguments. But from those arguments, we can make determinations. We can make determinations to do other things. Like I said, later on, you can make a determination. I'll make another video on this, on how belief in God would give us a single morality. But this reading atheists just makes me uh, more confident in the arguments that others theists have brought up, and it really doesn't look good for atheists. And I can bring up some other arguments, which I'll make another video on, but this has gone long enough. So thank you for watching. Give me a thumbs up and a comment and ring the bell, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.